When somebody asks what I do for a living, I say that I like to snowboard. The sentence, "I'm a professional snowboarder," doesn't roll off my tongue. There's so many other things that I like to do. So to just say I'm a professional snowboarder, it seems very singular.
Yeah, Gio.
It's not a singular profession. There's a lot of things that come with being a professional snowboarder rather than just snowboarding.
What drives me is the experience, the passion, and the people, and the work that goes into it.
My name is Jill Perkins. I am from Moore Park, California, and I am a Virgo.
I come from California. Like, looking back, I'd be out all day, you know?
I was really into sports, like all sports. Team sports, skateboarding, like all these things. All I know that it was like inside of me, like when I stepped on the rink or the field, I felt powerful. It just felt like I was in control and fighting for something more. So then I found snowboarding my senior year and I was like, wait a minute, that part of me is like pumping, like it like wants to come out. Once I got involved, I think it just kind of like exploded. I was obsessed with snowboarding, but that needed to be backed up with hard work and with dedication.
Yeah. This is Jill Perkins. She's a good one.
So this is Sugar House Park, located in beautiful Salt Lake City. So my first apartment was like less than a mile away. I moved here when I was just turning 20. I was like 19, 20. Like, the mountains here are so great. I mean, if you look at the billboards, it's best snow in the US.
I told my parents, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna move for school. I didn't even really know the world of like professional snowboarding, especially like the street side of things. I remember my dad called me and he was like, what's your plan? And I remember telling him like, well, I wanna win Rookie of the Year. Like, that's my goal. Once I won that, I remember him calling me and just being like, okay, you did it, like what's next? And I was like, I wanna get a cover. And so then I like worked hard and then that happened. Like if I, like focus and set my mind to something, there's a high chance if you work hard that you can attain that. I wanna prove to myself that I can get these things done and, buckle down and like figuring out my niche and like what I like to do in street snowboarding. The next step was like, I want to go pro. For a long time, like when I started snowboarding, I felt like I was very drawn to like the gnarly side of snowboarding. I love pushing those boundaries of doing things that people are like, girls don't typically do that or girls don't snowboard that way. I like that. There was something so attractive to me in that, where I'm like, oh, no girl's ever frontboarded a kink in the streets, like I want to do that. Back then, I was still figuring out my style and all this stuff, so like doing gnarly big things was my way to make a name for myself. It was just like, this is big, this is gnarly. There was a perception of women in snowboarding, which is so false. Like, they're good for a girl, or like, this is a girl spot. I've been on trips where it's like, the boys will be talking about spots and they'll be like, oh, here's a good spot for you. And I'm like, well, what about the 7 spots that you guys were just showing each other? Like, don't single me out because I'm a woman, There's no difference between you and I in this space. So I think I really like fought for that. I think like I had to prove to myself that I could like hang with them. Like if I want to be in this space, then I have to do this because I'm sick of people saying she's good for a girl. And so I had to like step it up to try to, fight with the boys. I think I'll always be trying to like have that perfect part, and you got to enjoy the process because it's really not for everybody, and that's cool too. That like drove me for a really long time, and it still does in a way, but now I've hit a point where I'm like, not everything needs to be so damn gnarly. I'm more experienced, so I know like what's at stake, but putting myself out there and trying new things and scaring myself is a huge part of what I do. So I think losing that would almost be like death to a part of me in snowboarding that I don't know if I'm ready to accept.
Stop. Stop.
Traveling and filming have been life-changing because it does have this creative aspect, and I think I've always been drawn to that. You get to choose what you're going to snowboard on, and you get to choose how you want to snowboard. When you're driving around new cities looking for an aesthetic that you may be attracted to, it's really cool and it's exciting for me. I'm really fulfilled by doing something new. You know, maybe like opening up a spot to the world that hasn't been hit.
There's some people that thrive in these situations, and there's some people that are like, get me out of these situations, you know?
Creating a video part, there's like elements and there's pieces. In my head, there's like some sort of recipe, and a lot of it comes down to like what I want to film that year. I just learned this trick. I want to film it. It's really cool and it's fun, and when you find a spot online or driving by and then you come up with a plan and then you execute that plan and it works, you can't recreate that feeling. I think for me, going to the gym and like working out in sports have always been like a huge part of me. But I will say, like, post being injured, I've taken it a lot more seriously. Like breaking like my sacrum and my like lower back, that was a very terrible time. Shoulders, like ankles, all these things, like I think in a very high impact action sport, you have to have a layer of protection. And as things progress, like it becomes a lot more gnarly. And so if you aren't doing your due diligence to get out there and take care of your body, you kind of just crumble. The level of snowboarding right now is just at an all-time high for like the women and stuff. And without honing in on the gym, I'd be injured way more. I like wouldn't have the stamina I do. So like being in the gym kind of gives me the confidence to know that I can like make it through a day out there. I take my physical health seriously. I take my mental health seriously. I think I put that off for a really long time and used it to fuel my fire to become the snowboarder I am. After years doing that, it kind of just catches up with you, and you realize that that is like a beast that kind of needs to be tamed in order to continue doing what you love to do. So it's a journey. I love filming, and I just want to be equipped to handle that in the most healthy way possible. Because at the end of the day, like that comes from like passion and love and drive, and those are things that are like really important to me.
When I was a kid, I think like my first love was skateboarding. And I liked the thrill. That was exciting to me for some reason. I just was obsessed with it. And then kind of hung it up to dry. I got back into it. I think it's something that has always brought me joy and fulfillment. I think that's really important to embrace those things as we go through life. I just like genuinely enjoy going to the skate park with my friends, and like that type of camaraderie, and like to just be able to like laugh at each other and be proud of each other. It's really special to me. Like I find a lot of my snowboard inspiration through skating. I think I always have. It's fun to like do something that's like kind of similar to your wheelhouse, but not have the attachment that like you have during snowboarding. You gotta get that out of my face. I'm so fucking sweaty and hot and red, bro. I like can't even, I'm like.
Jill has no chill, all right?
The growth in women in both snowboarding and skateboarding has changed so much, like since I since I got into it, because that's really up to where my knowledge begins.
Like, we're just seeing more women snowboard, like within the past 5 years. From my experience, when I was getting into snowboarding and started taking it seriously, it was a very small piece of pie that the women had to share. And that ultimately pitted us all against one another. And it was a very scary, unhealthy environment to be in. When you had something come up that you should be so proud of, it felt like guilt in a way. And that was really fucked up and hard. And, I think now that's kind of dissipated. I just can't help but to believe that because there's more women, there's less friction. And I think if we were able to expand that even more, I think we would see progression absolutely through the roof, even more so than we're seeing now.
Any new tattoos?
No, but this one's my favorite one of my dog. It's my favorite one. It looks exactly like her.
For a long time, one of my biggest fears was coming out to the community or my team managers.
I think everybody has their own experiences, but talking to some of my peers, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was a hang up.
I remember being so nervous. And I think my fear of just being put in a box and identified as that rather than who I am was scary. And then when I did come out to my team managers, they didn't really bat an eye. And my relationships have gotten even stronger because I could fully be who I am, and they accept it and are so kind.
Getting more women involved also eliminates the fears for the younger generation to be themselves. When I started, it was I have to be this cool kid. If I want to snowboard, I have to like the same bands. I have to laugh at the same jokes. Or you had to be hot. There was lanes that were chosen for you. And now you can now find your own niche and be your own weirdo. I am from California. I never thought I would ever come back to California.
When I do this, I'm able to just shut my brain off. And I think that's another reason why I really like it, especially working in a space where my internal dialogue is a lot of the times self-attacking. And I think now I can hyper-focus on something.
I find myself in LA in the summertime now, and I think for a long time I was so centered around snowboarding in Salt Lake and just feeling like I needed to be there because that's where the culture was. I think now my priorities has shifted a little bit. My family's here. I think I've lived and breathed snowboarding for so long and I love it, but I find it extremely healthy to finding excitement in different things.
They say measure twice, cut once, but I like to do it a different way. Where I cut about 16 times. I think I felt a little lost in snowboarding for a while because I always was the only thing I do is snowboard. And so when I started doing this, I just became obsessed with it, similarly to how I would become obsessed with learning a trick or something. So it's been a fun process. I think in my snowboard career, I've been so overwhelmed so many times that this kind of brings me back to just being chill. Sometimes I need to chill out, and this is how I do it. It's been nice. It's also safe for the most part.
It's nice when somebody reminds me that I've been a professional snowboarder for a long time. It has taken me a long time to appreciate and be proud of myself for the things that I've done within the snowboard community. It's been really eye-opening to, get calls from girls being hey, what do you think about this? That to me, it's a really humbling thing because it reminds me to be introspective about what I've done. And I don't think that I do that enough. When snowboarding becomes a job, you kind of lose sight and you lose the access to progression. And what I recognize as a key to progression would really be to go snowboarding more, not for work, but for myself. Wow, snowboarding has brought me to like some of the coolest places with the coolest cultures, the coolest people, beautiful sights. And so like when I look at it like that, snowboarding has really given me such a greater appreciation of life. And sure, there's times where you're working and it's difficult and it's a job, but when you take a beat to like settle down and kind of appreciate where this has taken me, it's like, it does make me feel proud. It does make me feel proud to say like I'm a professional snowboarder.